It's less about a particular organization or a particular activity. It's about whether or not you've given the money in such a way that you can actually have some confidence that it's going to make the change in the world you want. And that change can be, having another student at risk of dropping out actually being able to graduate on time. That change could be getting a existing cost-effective drug for malaria to a child in time that you save that person's life. I distinguish between high-impact philanthropy and other types of philanthropy because some philanthropy isn't practiced in such a way that it can assure those kinds of results. And in fact, many philanthropists don't necessarily give with the idea of trying to maximize the social good of their philanthropy. So for those folks who are giving out of a sense of obligation or reciprocal giving, my buddy's on a board, he gave money to my fundraiser, so I gave money to his fundraiser. Or, I don't care so much about, I'm speaking from the point of view of philanthropists, I don't care so much about whether or not I am really maximizing the impact of my gift, but I'm really happy that my name's on that big building. Okay? So that's, high-impact philanthropy is different from that kind of social or reciprocal philanthropy in that it's squarely focused on improving the lives of others. All philanthropy, especially high-impact philanthropy, where people are really focusing on results, it starts with a personal commitment. And so, it's a personal commitment to making a change in the world. And how people got to that commitment is a very unique and personal journey. I don't think you want to disrupt that journey, because one of the things with high-impact philanthropy is you have to have a commitment to ongoing learning. There are no silver bullets, so you have to be able to care enough about the issue to learn when you've goofed up and to redirect or add more resources than you thought you needed in order to achieve your good. And what's exciting is when a philanthropist says, I'm committed to making a change in this area, whatever that area is. Once you get to that point, then you say, great, how can you translate that commitment and those good intentions and whatever resources you're bringing to the table to actually making the difference you want to make? That's where hopefully our work plays, is to translate those good intentions and that commitment to actual impact. We do know there are several motivations for why people give. One of the biggest ones is simply they are asked. And so it's a reaction to a request by somebody who either they have a personal connection to or who's describing a need that somehow resonates with them. Other folks give because they see themselves as a member of a particular community and they feel like they have a responsibility or a role in that community as a leader, and philanthropy is one way that they demonstrate that leadership. There are others who have been motivated because of a particular trigger event. They lost their mom to cancer. And because of that personal experience, have become committed to, addressing that issue and hopefully alleviating some of the pain and suffering that they experience in their family as a result of the mom having cancer. One thing that was interesting from a study that we conducted where we interviewed 33 high net worth individual philanthropists was how much of the information they get around their philanthropy comes from a pretty narrow set of information sources right now. It's the popular press, the sort of major periodicals, and it's their friends, their social network, their peer network. And one of the reasons our center was started is because, if you're really trying to figure out where your dollars can do the most good, you need some pretty good information to make a smart decision. And right now, we talk about the million-dollar question that the kinds of philanthropists we're trying to help are asking. And that is, okay, I'm not the kind of guy who wants the name on the building. This isn't about social philanthropy. This is about my trying to figure out where I can do the most good with the dollars I have. The top issue is right now a sense of frustration that they're not sure whether or not they're making a difference. And so, what was top on the minds of the folks that we were talking to when we started discussing philanthropy was, how can I have more confidence that I'm actually making a change? And if I'm going to continue doing this, I need to know better that my dollars are actually improving someone's life. And that's not only findings from our study, but other studies where people have asked the question, what would make you give more? And it was better information on cost and better information on impact. I don't even think in the top 5 or 10 it was more of a tax benefit. What we do know is that there's a lot of talk surrounding a kind of generational shift in philanthropy. A set of philanthropists who want and expect more involvement in whatever philanthropic activity they are engaged in. So, the idea is that if that's where they're starting, if there's this desire to be more than just writing the checks, then I think what the sector needs to do is figure out how can you leverage those good intentions and, frankly, a lot of talent that could be servicing the mission of the organization, and make sure that that talent, that energy doesn't go to distracting folks from the mission of the organization, or that organizations don't somehow get beholden to the whims of a philanthropist that thinks that this is their pet project. The problem right now is there isn't enough good information around the nonprofit's results in order for you to give a meaningful ranking. So ideally, with a nonprofit, what you want to rank on is their ability to transform their resources into good. Given the state of the field, what we have are information on certain inputs, like the amount of money that goes into programs. But inputs is not really what high-impact philanthropists or most of these nonprofits care about. This is not about counting the number of dollars you spend. It's about the other side of the equation, which is, given the number of dollars you spent, what results did you see? I think what you look for in a nonprofit organization is not, are they solving the root cause or putting on a Band-Aid? But given what they're trying to solve, are they doing that well? With philanthropy, just like with any other decision, there are 3 things that could happen. 1, you could do good. You could have the results you intended. 2, you could throw a lot of resources and not make a whit of difference. Or 3, you can actually do harm to the communities that you intended to serve. So the notion of high-impact philanthropy is, can you approach your philanthropy in such a way that you weight the outcome to the first, which is doing as much good as you can. There's a study that Bank of America had sponsored, a Center on Philanthropy in Indiana produced the study, and they looked at what prevented people from giving more. Or, the question may have been phrased, what would cause you to give more than you're giving? And the top 2 answers were related to cost and impact. When we did our own study, which was called I'm Not Rockefeller, because that was actually a remark we got from multiple people. Some sentiment like, oh, you're calling me a philanthropist, that's not really who I am. Despite the fact, by the way, that they gave on average $1 million a year. What we found was there's a great deal of latent philanthropy. So what we heard in the answers to our questions was frankly a lot of angst about the fact that they weren't giving as much as they knew they financially could, or as much as they wanted to. So it wasn't for lack of good intentions. In many cases, they had actually put the money aside specifically for philanthropy. And it wasn't for lack of financial capacity. They had plenty of money there to give. It was for lack of confidence that that money would make a difference. And at least the way they saw the field now, they couldn't figure out how to get that confidence that they were making good decisions without essentially turning it into a full-time job. For folks like them who want to make a difference and who have the financial capacity, is there a way we can get them to smarter decisions faster so that we begin unlocking that capital? And you know, that is one of the chief challenges that our center is trying to address by doing some of the legwork for them, doing the due diligence, going bleary-eyed reading these academic studies, that we can actually do a lot of homework that will get them to making the smart decision faster. One structural difference between the nonprofit and the for-profit sector is in the for-profit sector, the payer, the person who gives the money to the organization, is also the recipient of the good. So you've got a nice little virtuous cycle, right? If you had 2 lemonade stands and you had, you know, for-profit, one stand has great lemonade, one stand has terrible lemonade. The consumer of the lemonade decides and starts, you know, giving the money to the good lemonade stand, the bad lemonade stand dies. In the nonprofit sector, the whole point of their work is they are trying to help individuals and households and communities who don't have the dollars to spend to help themselves. And so you don't have that nice reinforcing loop. And that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to have the kind of performance management that you would want to see. The interesting thing with microfinance, microlending, is that it's gotten a lot of attention because it is using a market-based activity, lending, where a return is expected in terms of interest, to a social ill, which is poverty. So I think it's part of a broader trend around looking at kind of hybrid solutions to social issues. You know, it's double bottom. These are some of the terms that get floated around this kind of hybrid approach to doing good. Philanthrocapitalism, double or triple bottom line investing, impact investing. Those are all ways to think about, can you apply business/market models or principles to doing good? And I think microfinance is one example of a way that you can.